I am Cassie Rubico, alum of LaSalle University's Solstice Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing program. Welcome to the third in a series of 8 evening readings taking place here in Auburndale, Mass. As part of our January 2024 10-day residency, start of our spring semester. As we open this physical and virtual space, I would like to note that we acknowledge that the territory on which LaSalle University stands is that of the Pawtucket and the Massachusetts people. LaSalle's campus is a place to honor and respect the history and continued efforts of the Native and Indigenous community leaders who make up Eastern Massachusetts and the surrounding region. This statement is one small step in acknowledging the history that brought us to reside on the land and to help us seek understanding of our place within that history. Ownership of land is itself a colonial concept. Many tribes had seasonal relationships with the land we currently inhabit. Today, Newton and Auburndale are still home to Indigenous peoples, including the Nipmuc nations and the Massachusetts peoples. For more information, please visit the Massachusetts Center for Native American Awareness and the Commission of Indian Affairs of the state of Massachusetts. And now for tonight's reading. First up, we have faculty member Jennifer Murvin, who will be introduced by Solstice student Madison Coffey. Then Solstice MFA program director Meg Kearney will be introduced by Solstice student Beth Zimmer. Madison, come on up.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, short person adjustment here. Right there. Thank you. Yes, there we go. So I am here to introduce Jen Murvin, who is here for her first residency as faculty with Solstice MFA, which is very exciting. And when she's not teaching here at Solstice, she teaches creative writing in the areas of fiction, nonfiction, graphic narrative, form and theory of prose, literary publication, and literature at Missouri State University. And when she isn't busy teaching, she's also a faculty member of the River Pretty Writers Retreat in Tecumseh and runs the prettiest bookshop in all of Springfield called Pagination Bookshop. And if all of that wasn't enough to occupy at least 25 out of 24 hours of her day, she's also a very successful writer. She has a chapbook called She Says coming out later this year with Small Harbor Publishing, so mark your calendars, and a collection called Real California Living coming out with Braddock Avenue Books, I believe, next year. Her essays, stories, and graphic narratives have appeared in American Short Fiction, for which she has won the American Shorter Fiction Contest, Phoebe, which she received honorable mention, and the Baltimore Review, for which she won 3rd place in the Winter 2012 Shorter Fiction Contest, among others. She's also published a number of graphic novels for kids, including Chickasaw Adventures, an Independent Publishers Book Award finalist, Stories of the Saints, and McGraw-Hill's World History, Inc. With all that she's got going on, we're very happy to have her here, such a long way from home here at Solstice. I'm lucky enough to have gotten to work with Jen a few times, and every time we see each other, we're always able to get caught up in these really, really fantastic conversations, from everything over fangirling over Linda Berry to just the other day when we were talking about our admiration for older animation styles before computers. And I can say with confidence that even a brief conversation with Jen will tell you what a fun, bright, and creative person she is. So please join me for welcoming Jen Murvin. Yay.
Thank you, Madison. That was so nice. And thank you all for braving the weather to be here. And thank you so much to Meg and Quentin for having me, and for all of the faculty and students who have made me feel so welcome in this incredible community that I don't even know. Like, somehow you just luck into something. That's how I feel about Solstice. And I'm just really grateful. So I am going to share two pieces this evening. They're both graphic nonfiction. And one is one that I published early when I first started doing comics. It's a comic about my son. And then the second one is very, very new and in progress. So maybe you can spot the difference in that. But yeah, this first one is called How to Listen, and it's about my son. Oh, now I can't. I wonder if I have to do it this way. Okay. So my son, when he was little, and still sometimes now, has some speech issues where sometimes it's called fluency, where it would sometimes take him a little bit to sort of get started with his sentences. And so, after many years, we've kind of figured out some things. But when I was, first dealing with that, I wrote this comic about being his mom and listening to him struggle to speak. So it's called How to Listen. Your 9-year-old son will try to ask you a question. His mouth will get stuck, open. His jaw will work the air, a silent war cry. No words yet. His words will choke him. Wait. Watch his lips quiver. He is agape. Wait. He will gulp sky. You will want to say, darling, I love you. You will want to say, relax, take a breath. You will want to say, how can I help you? Wait. He will make a sound, a clicking in the back of his throat like a bird. His hazel eyes, black eyelashes looking away. Is he ashamed? His mouth will be open, still, little noises. Wait, darling. Okay, I think I might have to read this because the top is sort of blocking my view. I'm so sorry. I didn't think of that when we were practicing. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to move it down.
I just got rid of it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Perfect. Okay, sorry about that. What, oh, what does he want to ask you? Hold your hands tight. Do not touch his face. It will be as if he is yawning, but violent. His jaw working, his mouth never ever closing. The word will be stuck here. You will want to pull it out like on a string, like fishing for your boy's word. His word will be caught like choking, like clogging, like willful words. Just get here already. You will want to place words easy on his tongue, a word, a communion wafer. Hold your breath. You will not breathe until he does. Your throat constricting as if a word is caught there too. Love, help, please, no. Remember, you were his first listener. Him deep, deep in your body where only you could hear his hiccups, his turning, where only you could feel him and hear him. Only you, only you. His first translator. Remember his first noise, loud and easy as he exited you, and you knew his voice and he knew yours, and for an important while, there would be no need for words. Remember, wait. He will push it out. He will force it through. He will be his own fisherman of words. He will speak, listen. And that's the end of that short essay. Thank you. Thank you so much. So this next piece is a work in progress, and it's tentatively called Hold Your Breath. I haven't made my title page yet because I'm not married to the title yet. But this is a longer piece that I hope to write about my hometown of Simi Valley, California, which had the greatest nuclear disaster in the United States, actually. And I really just did not have a big awareness of it at all when I was a little kid. My parents really never talked about it. My sister and I have tried to get them to sort of like talk about, did they know about it when they moved there? It's kind of interesting culturally in our town how people think about it. So I've been working on this piece for a while. A lot of the images are from sort of the horse trails around where I grew up. So you'll see a lot of that. It's more like scenery based. So yeah, that's kind of the background of this piece. But I do mention a couple articles from, and my citations are not in there yet, but from the Los Angeles Times, also from the Ventura County Star, which is the local Ventura County newspaper where I'm from. And then also the documentary about the Santa Susana Field Lab called In the Dark of the Valley, which came out in 2019. And I think you can watch that. I think it's on Netflix. So if you're interested in learning more, I recommend the documentary, and I mention it briefly in the piece. So I think that's all you need to know going into this. Okay. In 1959, the Santa Susana Field Laboratory, set in the southeastern hills of Simi Valley, California, spilled 28 curies of radioactive noble gases into the earth and air, let loose like wild children into the dark. 3 Mile Island spilled 22 curies. No one would know about the Santa Susana Field Laboratory disaster until 1979, 4 years after my parents moved into their first home just a few miles from the site, and 2 years before I was born, though the scope of the event's toxic aftermath has only become widely known in recent years. When I was 5, we moved across the valley to the west side. The field lab continued to operate until 2006 as a testing site for rocket engines and nuclear research. And I should maybe say that it was called Rocketdyne for the majority of my childhood. How it would begin. A light, steady shake of our house, a rumble, which registered in our bodies as an earthquake until Mom would say, just Rocketdyne. Our neighbor's rain chime, her brother died of cancer at age 21. He, the brother, and his friends rode bikes in the Santa Susana Hills in the late 1960s. While interviewing my neighbor, I pet her little dog. She has several horses. She says she's never thought of moving. She talks of her brother in the present tense. He has been dead over 40 years. 5 of those bike riding boys died of cancer before age 25. Just Rocketdyne, in which case we might run outside to look out front in the cul-de-sac where the view of the mountain crest was visible across the valley, dog following. Any excuse to run out of the house and onto the careful grass, watered only Tuesdays and Thursdays in this drought. Barefoot on hot pavement, maybe over to the horse trail where the dirt is cooler, avoid the horse poop, dried eucalyptus crunching, maybe take a long peel of bark from the trunk. Inhale its spicy, sweet scent. What we'd see, white billowing smoke against a cartoonishly blue sky. Or ignore it. No earthquake, no danger, old hat Rocketdyne in the old hat hills, a game of draw a house in the dirt, set the table for dinner tonight, fill the water glasses. Learning later, each time, each test, stirring that deeply poisoned land, releasing history into the air, down into the earth, into the water, skin and blood and tissue. Maybe one thing, my mother's breast cancer, but caught early, caught early. Maybe another thing, my grandmother's colon cancer, but caught early, caught early. My grandfather with his one lung removed, but he was a lifelong smoker, of course, and lived in Simi only 9 years after all. Maybe. The name Rocketdyne, inspiring visions of, yes, rockets, a spaceship launch, exploration, innovation, mystery, the stars, infinities of space, there, up there in our hills. In the documentary about the disaster called In the Dark of the Valley, mothers hold their sick children, despairing. California was supposed to be a sort of dream, pomegranate, a sign of fertility, a kind of promise, grapefruit, a symbol of immortality, avocado, a symbol of prosperity. NASA and the Department of Energy are in charge of the field lab cleanup, but they fight endlessly who and where and how much. California's wildfires make it all worse. In 2021, some ashes and dust collected from the Woolsey fire zone and the fire's immediate aftermath contained high levels of radioactive isotopes associated with the Santa Susana field lab. Ash falls like flaky snow into my parents' yard, pool, coats their cars with a fine mist. As a child, I would notice huge crows flocking to our cul-de-sac in the evenings, covering the horse trail fences, light poles, asphalt. The poets know a gathering of crows is called a murder. Scientists used to be called philosophers. The Chumash called Simi Valley, Shemiji, and Ta'apu, Valley of the Winds. Are the crows watching the smoke rise? Are they dreaming of space? They carry soil on their claws and dust on their beaks. They are screaming as they flee. Time for dinner, my mother calls. Set the table. We are so thirsty. And that is the end of that piece. Thank you so much.
It is my pleasure and honor to introduce Meg Kearney. As you all know, Meg is the founding director of Solstice MFA in Creative Writing Program, located right here on the beautiful LaSalle University campus. Meg received her Bachelor of Arts in English with a concentration in creative writing from Marist College in New York, and she earned her master's degree in poetry from the City College of New York. Before starting Solstice, Meg was the Associate Director of National Book Foundation, where she worked with authors, publicists, and agents of both small and large publishing houses, and was also a poetry editor of Echoes. Meg has written numerous poems, collections of poems, a trilogy of novels for teens written in the form of journal entries and verse, and an award-winning children's picture book, Trooper. She was 2020 winner of the Washington Prize for Poetry for her book, All Morning the Crows. This book also made the Small Press Distribution's poetry bestseller in 2021, was awarded a silver medal in Forward Review's Indies Book Award for Poetry, and was nominated for a Pushcart Prize. I believe she's been nominated 4 times for Pushcart Prize. Her work has been featured in Garrison Keillor's A Writer's Almanac and in the 2017 Best American Poetry Anthology. Her work's been published in Poetry and the Kenyon Review. And this is just a simple, really small, brief description of some of the work and awards that she has done. Please, if you have not gone and searched Meg, just Google her and find her full bio and be amazed. In her opening remarks to the students in the Solstice program, she stressed the importance of respect, compassion, creating a sense of community, and a safe place to embrace vulnerability. And reading her work has inspired me. She inspires me to be more vulnerable, to be open both to myself and to others. And over the past 2 days, I've been asking students and faculty to provide me with a few words to help describe what Meg means to all of us. So Meg, this is how we see you. Warm and welcoming, kind, dynamic, generous, accepting, ferociously passionate, cooler than the other side of the pillow, organized, graceful, a fluttering sparrow, multifaceted and brilliant, quirky, embracing and exuberant, fun, fierce, and compassionate. So please help me welcome Meg Kearney.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Beth. And all of you. Shout out to the Solstice team, Q, my sidekick. Can't do this without Q. We are very much a team. And Cassie and Ellen helping to make this all go so smoothly and ensuring everyone has a really positive experience here at residency. And I think it was Anne Marie who said all of the students here are so brave. And I think the faculty are equally brave. So we all create this amazing community together. And so I applaud all of you for that. And I feel so blessed to be part of this, this community. And what an honor and joy it is to read with Jen, especially her first official residency. She's been with us a few times because we had to keep bringing her back, luring her into the net. But that was an amazing reading, Jen. Thank you so much for that. And thanks again, Beth, for that very thoughtful introduction. So I was trying to figure out what to read tonight, and it seems like one of the kind of themes going on, at least with the poets, is the theme of formal poems. We had Kathy Aguero teach her sonnets class. Ian Haley Pollock will teach a class on what free verse poets can learn from closed forms. So I thought I would just read all poems in forms from various books, starting with something brand new. So I'm working on this prose thing that's going to take me forever. And so to keep my sanity, I started working on another heroic crown of sonnets. And those of you who are familiar with the form, it's a real mind bend of a form. Quentin knows because he's been working on one, and so has Ellen. So yeah, that's how Meg keeps her sanity is by diving into yet another one of these. And so I thought I would read a brand new sonnet. So what I'm doing with this one, this crown, right now I'm calling it cardiac thrill. And that's the term that they use for the sound a heart murmur makes, kind of that swishing sound that a heart murmur can make. But in launching into this, I wrote what turned out to be what I'm calling like the prologue poem. So instead of 15 sonnets, that is the heroic crown, this one's going to be 16. Because that's what I do to myself, I guess. But just to think about formal verse, a lot of people, even poets, go, oh, I don't do that, And I try to think of it as actually very freeing. Molly Peacock is a wonderful formalist poet, and she would talk about form providing kind of a safe house in which to explore difficult material, because you spend so much time thinking about the constraints and rules of the form that you can kind of free up, that editor that sits on your shoulder and says, you can't say that, or, that's no good, or, so you get so caught up in the rhyme scheme and the, whatever rules of the form there are, it really can free you up in talking about difficult material and surprise you, because you'll start using diction that you wouldn't have otherwise. So that's another really fun part about writing formal verse, is that you're going to come up with some real surprises for yourself. And, you know, as Frost would say, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader, right? So, so I'm going to read that prologue sonnet to start, and then I'm going to skip around to various books and read some other forms, a few other sonnets and Villanelle and Sestina, and just mix it up. So this prologue poem I'm calling Heart Quartet. Heart Quartet. And what emotional impulse leads you to speak of the heart? That cliche, with its chamber for sleeping, for weeping, and remember the chamber for repair. Of course you do. Something's always broken, in need of glue or stitches, penitent kisses, or stranger, a pericardial window to release the waters rising as you write. Last, there is the room you pay a price to enter. That private hall the fated torrent will one day breach, which you will do your best to deny. Is this really it? Is this all? Until the heart silence its new found niche, no longer cares about the when or the why. Thanks. Okay. So for the YA group, I wanted to read something from, so there's this trilogy of novels and verse that I have for teenagers. And the middle one, I think is the only one that's not on the book table. It's called The Girl in the Mirror. So the protagonist of those books is a girl named Lizzie McLean. And in book 2, in the beginning of book 2, her father dies of a heart attack. And so this is a pantoum, which is a French form. It's very circular. Ellen read a fantastic pantoum the other night, the Chinese restaurant, right? Where you heard those lines that kept repeating. So your first and third line of the first quatrain is going to repeat as lines 2 and 4 of the next one, and then lines 1 and 3 of the second stanza are going to be 2 and 4 of the next. So it kind of keeps going like this until you get to the end. A pantoum can be any length, but by the time you want to end it, that first and third line from the first stanza have to repeat as the second and last line of that last stanza. So actually the first line of the poem is also the last line of the poem. It's a one big circle. So I wrote this, thinking about form and content. I wrote this as a pantoum just kind of to mimic, what the mind does when you get that kind of news. The day my father died. I thought it was a joke. She's 14, 15. Actually, by this book, she's a senior in high school. She's 14 in book 1. The day my father died. I thought it was a joke. They called me out of class. Mom's voice said Dad was dead. I dropped my phone. They sent me home. They called me out of class, said I should call my mom. I dropped my phone. They sent me home where everything was surreal. They said I should call mom, but her voice was strange, strangers. Everything was surreal. Our house was filled with people. Mom's voice was strange as strangers. Lizzie, she said, and hugged me. Our house was filled with people who wanted to hug me too. Lizzie, Mom said, and hugged me. We stood that way a long time. Whoever wanted to hug me too, I wanted them to leave us alone. We stood that way a long time. Neither of us could cry. I wanted everyone to leave us alone. I wanted this to be a bad dream. Neither of us could cry. Crying would mean it was true. I wanted this to be a bad dream, but I heard heart attack and car. Crying would mean it was true. Dad had pulled the car over. He knew. But I heard heart attack and car and wanted to shout, "You're all lying." Dad had pulled the car over. He knew it was his heart exploding. I wanted to shout, "You're all lying." Where was Dad? He'd show them it wasn't his heart exploding. It was April 1st, a trick. Where was Dad? He'd show them. He'd walk through that door. It was April 1st, a trick. Mom's voice said Dad was dead. He couldn't walk through that door. I thought it was a joke. Thank you. So that's a little glimpse into Lizzie. So kind of to like, I kind of bunched the poems like into these little mini themes. So I lost my dad when I was 26. So I wasn't a senior in high school, but I was pretty young, really rocked my world. It took me about 10 years to be able to write about that. So this is my first book, and Unkindness of Ravens, and this was basically my creative thesis from when I was at City College, City University of New York, and my main mentor there was a poet, a wonderful poet named William Matthews that I suggest all of you run out and check out. We do have one of Bill's books in the little Solstice library at the office. So one of Bill's prompts, here you go, was to write a 4-part poem, and each section had to be in a different form. So this is called Second Thought. The first section is it's in tercets. The second section is a haiku. The third section is now a truncated villanelle. It was a full villanelle, and then I cut off the bottom of it, which you can do once you can break the form once you know it, right? As they say. And then the last is a sonnet-like poem. So I'll just pause between the 4 sections. On second thought. I was wrong about happiness. I thought if I just knew where to look, it would be easily retrievable. Like a hairbrush I lost between the cushions of the couch, or the name of someone I used to know. When did I stop knowing it? I thought it would follow me when I left the house in LaGrange, that like my childhood memories, happiness was safely contained in the photograph of me and the neighborhood kids wearing cone-shaped birthday hats with elastic strings under our chins. But now I look at those pictures and I think about who took them. I think, I hated how that string cut into my jaw, left a temporary scar. I noticed for the first time the girl not eating cake, not smiling in her black and gray, though it must have been yellow or red hat. I can't recall her name, but wonder what she knew. How did she know? I thought by now my body would demand less. Not scream, I want. I was wrong to think language could save me, or save you for that matter. I see how words are their own truths while mine dies with me. Once I believed childhood would be a cross of gold around my neck, my own hallowed relic. I wouldn't need language to save me. I thought memory would be dependable, that somehow, like words, they'd form their own truth. But my truth dies with me because I've written poems that might have made you happy, but you'll never see. I realize now I was wrong to think language could save me. These words form their own truth. Mine dies with me. I was wrong about memory and the body. I discover my hairbrush squeezed for months in a crevice of the couch and find several long brown strands and one short black graying. Then I'm 25 again, kneeling on the hospital bed, gently brushing his hair, saying, "Am I brushing too hard, Dad? Let me use my brush." Saying, "You know, I'm the only one with just the right touch." Now I pull his hair from my brush and place it in my mouth. His cells break down, become my own, even before I swallow. Tomorrow, people will say, "You look so much like your father." Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys are the best audience. All right, so the first heroic crown of sonnets is called The Ice Storm. And I'm just going to read sonnet 15 from this, which is Storm. So this is a book basically about the dissolution of a marriage. So sonnet 15, if you tackle this form of 15 sonnets, you want to write number 15 first. Then you know how all sonnets 1 through 14 begin and end, right? Because the first line of the first sonnet, or the last line of the first sonnet becomes the first line of the second, the last line of the second becomes the first line of the third, all the way to the end, so that on sonnet 15, it's made up of the first lines of sonnet 1 through 14. That's why you need to write sonnet 15 first, or you will never survive doing this. And that was a tip given to me, so I pass it along. Storm. The marriage is over before the storm strikes. It starts like a lullaby, innocent as rain in the forecast, in the sky, nothing but rain. But nothing's what it seems at the edges of twilight. Anger's hand clears the deck, yanks out the lights. He thinks we'll always have the weather to blame. She thinks it's just the world imploding again. By morning, the world outside the window is ice. They call a fragile piece around the wood stove. Don't say mine. Don't say help. Don't think you can handle this house by yourself. Further proof, he's never known her and won't. The storm takes out the poplars and sweet pine grove. It sweeps in ruin, and it comes by stealth. Another tip about writing crowns of sonnets, I tend to go with the Petrarchan because it gives you a lot more flexibility. If you're writing a Shakespearean, you've got that last couplet that kind of has to keep rhyming, and it starts to sound kind of sing-songy, unless you're like really, really, really good, which I haven't gotten there yet anyway. So that's another little trick. I'll pass it on. All right, so just a few more. From All Morning the Crows, I'll read you another pantoum. This is a completely different one to kind of stay on that kind of stormy, icy to match today kind of theme. What page number is this? 30. So this is penguins. So for All Morning the Crows, there's a book called 100 Birds and How They Got Their Names. And a lot of you know, have heard me say that that was the book that I used by Diana Wells. And it was like one big prompt, right? I wrote like 100 poems to go with the 100 birds in that book, and then ended up, revising, throwing out, and then, eventually landed with this collection. And I have extensive notes in the back to acknowledge what I'm getting from Diana Wells's book. So I just want to read you about penguins a little bit here. The male emperor penguin incubates the single egg on its feet, holding it against a bare brood patch on his abdomen and eating nothing for months, huddling with the other devoted fathers throughout a winter of frozen nights and swirling blizzards. If after months away the female's return with food is delayed, the male feeds the chick milk from his crop as they both wait. Even sailors who once heartlessly slaughtered penguins, cramming them into the ship's holds by the thousands, must have been touched by these birds. John Winter, who sailed with Francis Drake to Patagonia in 1578, described penguins walking so upright that, quote, far off a man would take them to be little children. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm reading in Diana Wells's book, right? And then I would say, all right, now, right. So this is what I came up with after I read about penguins. This is a pantoum. Penguins. They looked like little children standing upright on the shore, the sailors said, still at sea. All were hungry under that frozen sun. Standing upright on the shore, a cluster of fathers and their chicks. All were hungry under that frozen sun, waiting for the mother penguin's return. The cluster of fathers and their chicks didn't see the sailors land. Waiting for the mother penguin's return, they'd survived brutal nights, furious blizzards. They didn't see the sailors land, axes, knives, and clubs in hand. They'd survived brutal nights, furious blizzards, the stunning tales of killer whales. Axes, knives, and clubs in hand, the sailors made quick work of slaughter. The stunning tales of killer whales, wolves' teeth, nothing had ever slain so many. The sailors made quick work of slaughter. How many dead penguins could a ship hold? Wolves, whales, nothing had ever slain so many. What haunts sailors' dreams? Penguins huddled on shore. How many dead penguins a ship can hold, the sailors said back at sea. What haunts sailors' dreams? Huddled on shore, penguins look like little children. Okay, just two more and we are done. So now we're just going to end in New York City. First on 14th Street, when I first moved to New York in, should I even say? Oh, some of you weren't even born yet. Oh my goodness. 1994. I actually sublet Molly Peacock's apartment, that poet that I mentioned earlier. And so I'm going to mention Molly in this poem because like I'm surrounded by her books, right? In her very noisy apartment on 14th Street and between Avenue A and B, for those of you who know New York. So Sestina, right? You've got 7 stanzas. They're all sestets, right? Lines of 6. And then you're going to end with a tercet. 3 lines. So in those 7 stanzas of those 7 6-line stanzas, you've got those 6 N words. And those end words of each line have to repeat through each stanza in a certain order. And then you're supposed to use them all in your tercet at the end, but I kind of cheat. Okay. 14th Street. In the apartment next door, a boy plays the piano. Chopin mostly, though sometimes notes he's made up. Through the woman's window climbs the incessant noise of 14th Street. Merciless horns, squealing bus brakes, carnival-like music from an ice cream truck, permanently parked, belting, she'll be coming round the mountain over and over and over. The phone rings, her lover coos, can I come over? She hesitates, weighs her desires, company or listening to the piano, spending the evening with her books. Can you come around 9? She concedes. How about 8? He counters. I'll cook up some pasta, open the red Bordeaux, put on a little music. 8:30, she sighs. Pick up some bread at Palermo's on 14th Street. She settles on the couch with Take Heart by Molly Peacock. 14th Street begins to fade like an old grief. She turns the book over, the cover, hummingbird and passion flowers. Inside, the music of poetry, intelligent passion of form, not so unlike the piano sonata walking through her wall like a ghost. Upstairs, a neighbor screams for quiet. The ice cream truck begins another round. How many times can one listen to she'll be coming round the mountain? How could a woman ride 6 horses at once? 14th Street is no place for country songs or a girl from LaGrange. Up where she's from, they play a song once and then it's over. She closes the window, eases back on the couch. The piano overwhelms the noises of the street. She can return to her poems, the true music. In Blue and Huge, Peacock describes the ocean. It's like music, a substance that can't be cut up. The woman smiles. Unlike a round that divides a card game, the ocean doesn't end by chance. The piano is silent. She doesn't notice, so absorbed, even 14th Street can't touch her. She uses sticky notes to mark the poems she will read over. Just then, the door buzzer. He croons, can I come up? She's regretting their date. I'm not sure I'm up for this tonight, she says, as he selects a CD, puts on some music. He pulls her toward him. Are you saying it's over between us? He teases, knowing how to bring her around. She presses closer, confides, I guess I have to get away from 14th Street. Relax, he whispers. It's just you and me and Monk on the piano. Later, alone in bed, she wonders if her mother's still up. It's too late to call. She can't sleep, keeps replaying that music from the street, imagining a girl riding 6 white horses over and over and over. Thank you so much, you guys. Always such a fantastic, generous audience, and thanks to everyone on the live stream. We're going to end with the post 9/11 New York City poem. I was still living in New York during the terrorist attacks, and poem by now kind of has a foot in New Hampshire where I live now and a foot still in New York. So this is a sonnet to leave you with. This is a Shakespearean sonnet called In the Days of Code Orange. You know, those days when they kind of color coded how afraid we were supposed to be? In the days of Code Orange. Terrorists might take the Empire State Building next. Might take you or me or the red eye to LA. Our fears escalate like the news anchor's tits. We're not sure if they're real or not. The men in black keep such secrets secured in the public's interest, yet they're never hung up by facts. Meanwhile, a woman dies cold in the park. An underemployed chef is driving a cab. A foster mother starves the boys in her care. The anthrax assassin sits tight in his lab. They'd drill ground zero if oil were there. Love, let's live by a code the color of wine. We have this cup and so little time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Wow. Thank you, Meg Kearney and Jen Murvin. What a reading. Thank you so much. Can we give them one last round of applause?